Indian culture is so rich and so diverse in its many forms. I was in tears. I said, "Oh no, no, Jatayu was killed." When I watched Mr. Bhaskar's Butterfly Lovers in 1958, the Ramayana came first because it's much less complicated than Mahabharata. I was born in Indonesia, and I grew up with watching both Ramayana and Mahabharata, as Wayang Kuli, Wayang Golek, Wayang Wong show. I'm really from very young and fascinated, by Hanuman, by Sugriva, Subagri, and how Jatayu tried to save Sinta, but was killed by Ravana. And I remember when I saw it, when I was, I think, 7 or 8 years old, I was in tears. I said, "Oh no, no, Jatayu was killed." Indian culture is so rich and so diverse in its many forms. And I became very interested in Bharatanatyam when I watched Mr. Bhaskar's Butterfly Lovers in 1958, how they move the eyes and all the intricate movement, and it's just fascinating, It's similar and yet different from Chinese opera or the Wayang, the Wayang Wong of Indonesia that I have learned earlier. And I told my grandmother, I want to learn Bharatanatyam. And my grandma said, "Oh, you're too young now. When you grow up, or a few years later, I'll let you learn." So I'm very fortunate that when I was 13 to 14, I went to Mr. Bhaskar's studio at Momin Road. And it was from there that I developed a stronger, passion for Indian culture. So I adapted both Ramayana and Mahabharata as Chinese opera. And the Ramayana came first because it's much less complicated than Mahabharata. So the Ramayana in Teochew opera, version was premiered in Stuttgart International Theatre Festival by the Taoyong Amateur Musical Association. And this was a great success because the German and the international audience is fascinated how a Singapore group, presenting Teochew opera, but an Indian story. And that success led to the invitation, from the Royal Thai Embassy in Singapore. We were invited to perform for the 60th, birthday of His Majesty, the King of Thailand. And we performed at the National Theatre of Thailand actually 4 times, at the 4 different Ramayana festival. We also performed in Indonesia, and that was the highlight, of the cast that performed Ramayana. You know why? Because President Jokowi at that time was the mayor of Solo. So he invited us to perform at Kraton at the Palace of Solo. And the guest of honor is the Singapore ambassador, to Indonesia, Ambassador Asok and Mrs. Asok. And the Kraton is an open air venue. Oh my goodness, it's totally packed. President Jokowi and Ambassador Asok was very pleased that this Singapore group is using a traditional form, but telling a story that all the ASEAN countries knows well and love it. And then I helped to bring Ramayana to China. And that was the first time China see a Chinese opera Ramayana. A multicultural Ramayana with Indian dancer from Indian Fine Art Society, with Malay dancer from Aspirasi Dance Group, and also the Chinese Wu Dance Studio, make multicultural Ramayana. And we brought it to Vietnam just last year for the Singapore Festival organized by the Embassy of Singapore in Vietnam. So the Vietnamese audience is totally amazed by this Ramayana that integrated all the different dance traditions of Singapore. That festival in Khajuraho is performed by 6 or 7 ASEAN countries and India, Thailand, Myanmar, Indonesia, and so on. But I'm very pleased in a way that the paper actually feature our photos very prominently, because it is very unusual, because the design is not totally Chinese. The design, you can see that there is already fusion of some Indian culture, Chinese culture, Malay culture in it. And at Khajuraho, you know that the temple there, and it is an open air space. That night that we performed, there were 3,000 people there. And what was most unusual was that it was a full moon night for us. You see, when it was our turn to perform. When Sita was captured by Ramayana, suddenly the cloud covered the moon. There's a whoa. And then when Hanuman comes, the cloud will blow away and the full moon appear again. And the 3,000 audience clap and clap and clap. It was, we have only 14 dancers, 14 performers, so we have to do multiple roles. So, we have the guy that play Kakai have to come out and change costume to play other role as well. So Maricha become the Supanaka, and the audience also was very impressed by the quick change. They knew that there were only 14 people. But we started from Kakai, in the palace, demanding that Rama should be evicted from the palace. And we played the whole story until the end, when Rama and Sita, went back, and Bharata comes to welcome them. Can you imagine? There are many characters. When you take the story from Kakai, demanding, Dasaratha, to evict Rama, until Bharata come to welcome Rama. Singapore is so blessed that we have this multicultural heritage. And we could watch, a Malay bangsawan, Malay dance drama. We can watch Bharatanatyam or Kuchipuri, or Kathakali, easily. And there are Teochew opera, Hokkien opera, Cantonese opera. And I think this rich heritage of Singapore is really, we are very fortunate to have such opportunity, to have access to this heritage, to showcase Singapore internationally. It would be good if we can feature, the multicultural elements of Singapore. And from our experience, I think it is also the way to introduce our heritage, to international audience. And the audience, wherever we go, they love this, manifestation.